mic is muted. Look at that. Muted. Muted. First time back and I'm muted. Big boomer thing going on. Is that what they call it now? Boomer? Like if you do something wrong? Whatever. Anyway, we're back. We're back. We're ready to do this. I mean, it's the Skits Fun House. We got a guest that's going to be coming in about 10 minutes. He's going to be here. We got Douglas Ernst. But before all of that, I just wanted to take a minute and talk to y'all and say hello and tell you thanks for all your support, all that good stuff. I mean, it's been one heck of a ride since we started this Skits thing. 20 years in the making for me. It's only been about a year for most of y'all, or maybe a little bit longer than that. Don't really know. It matters how you've been, if you've been following us or not. But it's just great to be here. Just want to say hello to people in the chat right quick. I know, man, I was muted. Isn't that funny? That is really funny. I'm not muted now though, right? Right? Y'all can hear me? Oh man. What's up? Muted. I know. So silly, man. I appreciate you for being here. And of course, we got Black Star in there. She's gonna help you out and everything. I do appreciate that. Verse Films is here. Appreciate you for being here as well. Hopefully some more people will come in before Douglas gets here, so that would be cool. But just to kind of get the show going and to warm it up and everything, I just wanted to kind of talk to y'all. Let me go back over here to the Skits origin right quick. Let me show that. This is what we're going to be crowdfunding next is Skits origin. It's actually a book that I worked on 11, 12 years ago. And I did like 3 issues, and then I did a bunch of web comic type stuff. It's 87 pages of material that really no one's ever seen. So it's already done. It can go to the printer anytime, and that's what we're going to be starting up. And I'm not quite sure of the date, but it's coming really soon when we're going to launch this thing really soon. So we're going to have some interesting stuff on that. It's just going to be the book. We're going to be selling the book. We might have some art tiers, and let me pull up the let me pull myself up nice and big. If you you look back over here, we got some G-Clays from Skits the Sun book 1, and we'll probably have a couple of those for sale in the campaign for Skits Origin. So that should be really cool. You know, people are like, oh, do you have any prints? Do you have any prints? Well, I didn't want to do like junky, crappy prints, you know, nothing bad or anything, you know, just, I don't want to print something out that's, you know, is basically kind of like, it's not going to last too long, or it's not of high quality and that I could sign or something like that. So I wanted to do G-Clays, and there's going to be 4 different G-Clays. We'll probably do 2 on the campaign, 1 on the website, and 1 somewhere else where you can only get it somewhere else. So that's going to be really cool. So those are back there. Probably should bring them up, you know, show them around and stuff like that. But anyway, Skits Origin. Go over there, sign up. You get $5 off when you sign up. We'll send you a link as soon as the campaign goes live, and you'll get a special area where you can buy your book for $5 off. So that'll be really cool. I think that's cool. I think it's awesome. What do we got next here? Let me go ahead and show you. Let me share a different screen here. And bam. So this right here is the Skits website. Okay, so we just launched this just a couple weeks ago, and we sent out an email to the email list, stuff like that, and said, hey, now you can go buy our books on our website. You can buy our books, you can buy artwork, you can buy, we're going to have some of these G-Clays right back here for sale, and I'm going to have special art objects that we're going to be selling. Let me go ahead and show you. This right here is the main page, right? It talks about skits and everything. And then we also have the shop. The shop is broken up into 2 sections. We got comic books. So we got the individual comic books here. You can buy them individually. or you can buy the 3-book journey. We still got the 3-book journeys for sale, where it comes with the belly band signed and numbered and everything. It's real. Actually, it's not numbered. Those were only for the campaign. These are just signed, and that's that. Also, I got this one art object here that's really, really cool. Let me show y'all this. This is a handmade 3-book journey, a handmade slipcase for your 3-book journey. And it's already got the 3-book journey inside there. And I hand sewn this, I painted it, put it all together. It's really, really cool. The only way you can get the 3-book journey out of there is actually by cutting up the stitching and pulling it out. So it's one of those things, once you do it, you know, anyway, here's the back of it. Got the flag there on the back of it. There's a detail of the front. And there it is in size, you know, just showing you some of the other handmade books I've done. That's right there. So that right there is really cool. It is something really special. Whoever gets that is going to have something really, really neat. Let me go ahead and show this big. I actually have it sitting right here. So you can kind of see the size. It's the size of comic books right there. And you can see where the stitching is along the side there. So, yeah, pretty cool little thing here. I love this thing, to be perfectly honest. I don't really want to sell it, but I made it for the website, so there you go. Also, on the website, let me go back over to the website. We got some other stuff there. Let me go back. And there's also original art. We got a nice big drawing. Skits right here, the Go Fish. I got 3 pages of artwork from Skits. I got page 17, 18, and 19 on there. Also, the handmade book shows up in there because it is a piece of art. And we got 2, these are liquid graphite pieces that I did. They're washes. They're really, really nice. I got some videos of how I actually made them up on the website. And I got those right here. Let me show those off. Those are really nice right there. That. So those are for sale on the website. And here's this piece. This is a real big piece. This is really, really cool. I really like this. This is ink and paint right there. So that's cool. And of course, we got the books. So there's Skits. We got the Skits books. So those are all on our website. So go over there, check out the website. Also on the website, we got news and videos. We got everything that comes out with Skits. There's 2 places really that it gets hit to first. We got the newsletter, so get on the newsletter, or it'll be right here in our news section. We got, you know, Skits Meets Mr. Chair. We were at the Fanboy Expo recently. We put some stuff up there. And then also the making of the handmade slipcase. So I'm going to be doing tutorials of how I make things and how I show things off. And this is actually the only place where you can get those tutorials. I put like time-lapse ones up on the YouTube channel so you can check those out. But those are to music and they're quick. But if you want to see actually how I made it and me talk about it and stuff like that, that's actually right here. You can click on it and check out the video. So. And of course, there's a contact section, and at the bottom of each page, there's the subscribe area right there. You can subscribe to the Asylum. So you can get all that information. And go back over here. So yeah, that's basically what we got going on right now. And something that we're going to be having up on the website soon is a subscriber area, where I'm going to be doing in-depth tutorials, drawing, painting, process. I'm going to be making some handmade books. I'm going to show you how to make those handmade books. Here's a couple of handmade books I've done in the past. This is one, and it's just, you know, different stuff in there, kind of artsy-fartsy, you know, writing. There's a picture of a toilet. There's all sorts of neat stuff in there. Here's another one. I actually show this one off on the website. This one's really cool. This has to do with Skits. There's all sorts of neat stuff in there, but you know, it's a handmade book. It's sewn up. another handmade book right here. This one's really cool. This is the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So let me just kind of show you how this works. You pull it down, and inside there is the actual book where you can pull it out and take a look at it. There's all sorts of illustrations and distressed paper type stuff in here. So, and that's cool. Hopefully this is showing up really good online. But this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be teaching you how to do handmade. I'm going to be doing storytelling, sequential storytelling from like a fine art perspective. You know, that's kind of what I was wanting to get into there. Also have some other handmade book. Here's another handmade book. This one's really cool. This one hangs on a wall. You put it on the hook, and it hangs there. And you got all the paper in there. I actually haven't done anything in this one. I just kind of liked the way it looked when I got done with it. And I was just like, just leave it. It's cool. It sits on a wall, you know. Kind of a neat one. So there's going to be all sorts of neat stuff going on the website. So come on over and check some of that out. Yeah, how cool is that? Now, I'm sure everyone here has been waiting for Douglas Ernst. A few people that are here. And it looks like he's in the background. Let me go ahead and stop sharing this. Let me, so let's see what we got here. Boom. How's it going, Douglas?
Hey, man, how's it going? Thanks for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, man. I got to tell you, like, I don't really, I've never spoken to you. I don't know who you are. And this was like for a first time, I was just like, I'm just going to bring them in without talking. Because usually I bring people on here. And then in the background, we start talking about stuff. And then we go live. And it's kind of like, oh, we kind of, you know, missed out on all that sort of stuff. So I just figured I'd just bring you in and just start talking, man. How are you?
Man. Anything you want to talk about, I'll roll with it. I'll do my best.
All right, man. So I got to tell you, I don't really know much about you. I'll tell you what I know. I know that you're a writer and a creator of comics. That's pretty much all I know. So tell me a little bit about you.
Sure. So before I was doing the Soul Finder graphic novels, before that, I worked for a newspaper. And then before that, I worked in the nonprofit industry for a while. And way back when in the 90s, I was in the military. And so somewhere along the line, I ended up actually meeting guys like Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini, Dave Dorman, and guys like this, Brett R. Smith. And they helped me kind of get what became Soul Finder off the ground.
Nice. So you're in the Army in the 90s. Like what time in the 90s? Like early 90s, later 90s?
The late 90s. I went in after I graduated from high school in 97. So 97 to 2000. Then I got out. I went to college. I went to the University of Southern California. I met my future wife there. Then I went back to just outside Chicago for a little bit. I was ahead of my future wife. And I saved some money for graduate school. Then she got out, went to Georgetown. I went to American University in Washington, D.C. And that's where everything sort of went from there.
Nice, man. Yeah, I was actually in the Army for a short time myself. I went in 2001, right after I got out of college. And actually, my first day of basic was 9/11. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah, it's like I went in, you know how we do 0 week, right?
Uh-huh.
So I went in, did 0 week, and then they shipped us off where we do our basic training. And that first, you know, we went in on like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that next day was 9/11. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was really weird. You know, it's like they locked down the bases. You know, you knew it. I mean, it was like they locked down the bases. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't call anywhere. And it was just like they were telling us, we've been bombed. You know, they're coming after us. They've hit us. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm like, this is the first day of basic. I was like, they're messing with us, man. This is ridiculous. This ain't real.
Yeah, I didn't have anything quite like that. The worst thing that happened when I was in, when did like Princess Diana die? I think she died like when I was in basic or something. Like there was something strange like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely you're closed off from like the outside world for quite a while. So the only news you really get is what they tell you for a
Yeah,
while.
especially when you're in basic, you know, like once they shut down the phones, which is your access to your family, you got nothing, you know, there's no newspapers and they're just like, hey, this is what's going on. It's like, okay, I guess so. And so they were extra hard on us, as you can imagine. You know, they were like, listen, you're going to war. This is all there is to it. So buckle up, pal. You know, we're going to work you until you die.
Yeah, that's what was your MOS?
14 Juliet, which was dealing with satellites.
All right, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So basically, it's like all my training was in El Paso, Texas, and I was in a bunker basically all day, you know, where it's like you don't see the light of day just in their training. It's all top secret, supposedly. And you know how their top secret works.
Gotcha. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So when did you get into writing? Is that something that you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, I've been into writing since I was a kid. I've said on other streams before that I was in a program in middle school where they would ship you to the high school and you do creative writing. Then I continued that into high school. Obviously, when I was in the military, I mean, I was actually still writing while I was in the military. I was keeping, you know, journals and all of that and coming up with screenplay ideas and all sorts of things that just have collected dust over the years. But in many ways, it was still very worthwhile because just the more that you write, you're practicing your craft and you're learning things as you're doing it. So any sort of screenplays I wrote or short stories or poetry that never went anywhere or what wasn't published, in my mind, I was still learning so much while I was doing it. So I was still writing while I was overseas. I was in Germany, and then I was in Macedonia for a while.
Oh, nice.
And then when I got out and I went to Southern California, I was an English major there. So I was writing. So that was creative writing was always my first love. But then actually after 9/11, that sort of like jarred me in a way. And I was like, whoa, because I wasn't even really that political or anything. And without getting like too into the weeds, a lot of my professors were sort of anti-military. We'll just put it that way. And so I changed and I was like, well, do I want to do creative writing or do I want to write in a way that affects the culture and sort of teaches people about the military and does honor to like my friends who actually were deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan and all of this. And so I actually shifted gears, and that's how I ended up getting into like nonprofits and then ultimately the newspaper, because 9/11 changed me so much. But my first love was always creative writing and comic books.
Yeah, I was the type of kid who just did sports as a kid. You know, like I did baseball, football, basketball. I surfed. I grew up in Daytona Beach, and so at some point around 6th grade, I had an art teacher who was just like, "Listen, you need to sit down and you need to draw this right here. And I think you'll." And I was like, I don't want to do all this. So, but anyway, she just sat me down and said, "Try this," and it just happened to be something that I really enjoyed. And from there, I just kept on going. You know, it was just one of those things where it was probably the only thing in school that really interested me. You know, I was able to do it through junior high, and then in high school, by my senior year, I had like 5 art classes, and then English and one other class. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like that's all I ever wanted to do by the time I got to the end of high school. And then I ended up going to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I guess that's that. I don't know how I ended up in the Army, to be perfectly honest. I was just like, after college, I was just like, oh, so why not just try the Army? Who knows, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on what you're doing, you get to see the world. You get to go all over the place. If you're a young man and you're adventurous, like one of there was multiple reasons why I went in, but one of them was I wanted to see the world. I wanted to go on adventures. And I was like, if I'm going to be writing, I want to experience, I want to get a broader perspective on the world. So if they send me who knows where, that's only going to help my ability to write with more authority in the future.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those things for me too. It was like, completely out of my purview of what I like to do. And it was just like, well, let's just try something different. I'm kind of one of those people who really likes to try different things, try new
Right.
things, especially as an artist. It's like that's the type of thing that you do. It's like, okay, I did this for a while. Let's go try this. Let's go try that. So now that I'm into comic books, it's like I was into comic books when I was like sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth grade. Around then, I worked at a comic book shop for a while, like 89, 90, 91, around those times. And it's always stuck with me. Like I really enjoyed it, but like when I went to college, I kind of dropped out. I was just like, I sold all my comic books. I had to go to college. I just was focused on that. But just to tell you a little bit about Skits, I don't know if you know too much, but it was Skits is a book about a guy who can't tell the difference between his dreams and reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I came up with this is after I graduated from college, I was working at a TV station, and I was working the midnight to 8 a.m. shift. And I started having these strange sequential dreams where, like, day after day, they were just kind of picking up where they left off. So I started documenting them. I'm an artist. I always have sketchbooks. So I just started documenting this stuff. And now, like 20 years later, I'm actually, I put it into a book and stuff. And this is just issue 1 of 6.
Cool.
So it's always been one of those things that's been in my mind. And I was just kind of like, okay, now's the time. It's got to get it out there before you can't get it out there. So.
Yeah, man, I heard of you and Eric Canetti talking about art and the creative process recently, and that was a great stream. So I'm going to plug your own channel here. If people haven't checked out the Eric Canetti stream, that was quality stuff.
I appreciate that. That's really kind of you. It was fun talking with him. It's hard to find like artists that have been on a real long journey. There's a lot of artists out there that are doing stuff, but there aren't any that have like the real long journey where they've done it every day. Like you can tell people who have done it for, every day of their life for like 20, 30 years compared to, someone who just kind of fiddles with it from time to time and, they want to do stuff. So like talking with him was really nice because I can get cues off of him where he's about to say something. I'm like, oh yeah, I know where he's going with this, because I've kind of lived that same thing. So it's really cool. But the big thing that I just want to learn about is like writing, because for me, I'm not a writer. I'm not too good at spelling, grammar, any of those types of things. So for me, like writing skits, it was a big thing. I had my wife help with some of the editing, and I was one of those in school that I would do an essay, and say like you'd have an essay, you'd have like a week or two to do it at home. I would get a real high grade on that, but if you had to do it in class, I'd get like a D or something, because it was like I just didn't have that type of thinking where I could put it down really quick. So I want to know, like for you, it's like how what's your process for actually coming up with something? I know you have to start with an idea, but how do you attack that idea?
Yeah, so I guess with Soul Finder, I'll start there. So Soul Finder, for those that don't know, it's my series about combat veterans turned exorcists. They're basically like the special operations guys of the church and exorcisms, and they take on this demon called Blackfire, and Blackfire's minions essentially till the end of time. That's what they're tasked with doing. So if you've gone to war and you have seen the worst of it, you have seen the horrors of war, and you still have your faith, and then you become a priest, there's going to be a very small pool of people that can be recruited into this major order of exorcists because they have the physical prowess and skills to take on certain evil threats. Plus also they're great with the spiritual warfare. So you put them both together. Anyway, initially I wanted to tell a story about good versus evil. And I was tired of seeing these sort of moral relativist sort of stories in the comic book industry. And so I was like, okay, evil. I just want straight up evil. Okay, we got the demon. All right, that's where we're going to start right here. Okay, I want someone going up against the demon. All right, I actually want a man of faith who is not secretly some sort of evil person, mustache twirling, whatever. I'm a practicing Catholic, so that goes to the write what you know sort of cliche. But I mean, it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, so I'm going to have him actually be a Catholic priest, because that's the other thing. A lot of books on exorcisms don't even have priests. They just are people that are
Yeah.
basically into the occult, but that's a
Yeah.
whole other
Yeah,
situation.
they
So
probably don't look into the intricacies of actually how an exorcism would actually take place, or how the processes before you get to that point and stuff like that too, I'd imagine.
right. So I wanted to have an authentic priest performing exorcisms, going
Yeah.
up against these demons. But then I was like, okay, that would be cool if I could also apply spiritual warfare. And basically, my whole idea is that the physical wars that we fight in real life are a manifestation of spiritual warfare that is going on, that is being lost to a certain extent. So eventually that will bubble over into the physical world. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pair these priests with these special ops sort of guys, or these combat veterans. And so it just starts taking shape. Like, what would logically go together? What would logically go? Okay, now I got that. Now I got to come up with the character. And so that's all going to be subjective about what resonates with you. So I don't know. It's just kind of a slow process, just coming up with ideas over time. And the good thing about writing is revision, revision, revision,
Yeah.
revision. It's kind of like a block, like if you were sculpting or something. You just start out with the block. Your first
Yeah.
draft, you just have this sort of kind of shape of what you want, and you just keep chipping away at it and chipping away. So it's kind of like a different form of art. I would never claim to be an artist like yourself, but you know, you are definitely chipping away at the rough edges, and slowly over time what you want begins to take shape.
In Bruce Lee's book about Jeet Kune Do, he made a reference to his art form was like sculpting. And he
Mm,
said it was like the martial artist who's trained his entire life. What he does is he doesn't just keep adding things on top of what he already knows, but he takes everything that he knows and he strips away the inessentials until the
mhm.
truth is revealed. And he said it was just like a sculptor, you know, just chipping away and just breaking it down until the actual truth of the image is revealed, or the art form is revealed.
Right. Yeah, so that is one element of it. The other is, like you mentioned earlier, if you have somebody in your life who's honest and straightforward with you, when you give that person, you want to surround yourself with people where you give them a draft and you know they're not going to be like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, they'll be able to tell you, like, this is so my wife, for instance, is a great person in that she'll be like, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this makes no sense, this is dumb, why did you do this? You should probably cut this out. I do not like this at all. This is moronic, Doug. And so then I have to be humble enough to be like, yeah, that was dumb. That is not very clear. That doesn't make sense. Let me go back and revisit that and see if I can make that cooler. Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini were great with that as well. This doesn't. I feel like there's some. With the ending with the first book, Demon's Match, Tim was instrumental in making that a much better book, because he's like, I feel like there's something missing here. I can't put my it's right there. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't know what it is. And so I was like, okay. And then I started looking at the conclusion and the climax or whatever, and trying to figure out. And I was like, I think this is what he's talking about. And I rewrote it, gave it to him, and he's like, boom, that's it right there. And so surrounding yourself with people that are not going to sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
Writing workshops are often brutal. I've said before, I was in one where you have to give something good, you have to give something bad. And the one guy, he was just like, well, you're really good with punctuation. Like, that was like the best thing he could say, that I like knew where to put periods and commas and I don't know, things like that. And I was like,
That sounds terrible.
yeah. And then he moved on to all the things that he hated about my short story and how I'm essentially the worst writer of all time. But it's good. You need to go through those sorts of crucibles, because it really gets you to think about your own weaknesses, even when somebody is just not being constructive, when they're just trying to hurt you. Sometimes you can still find there's kernels of truth in their criticism, and find a way to improve based upon that, even if the person's not a very nice person.
Sure. 20 years, it's been 20 years since I've been in college. And the one thing that I really enjoyed about college was art critiques. Now, when you'd be in class, you know, all your assignments would be put up and everyone would critique it and look over it. And those were okay, but you know, you surrounded yourself with the best artists and friends that you could make at college. And it was like having them over and just doing a work jam or something like that on a Friday night or whatever. And we'd just be looking at the work and talking about it and just being brutal about it. Those were some of the best times. And it's something that I really miss, because when I was in Savannah, you know, I had handfuls of different friends and people that I hung out with constantly that we could do that with. But once you move away from there and you're not in that community anymore, it kind of it gets down, you know. So when I released Skits, I was kind of hoping, like, you know, someone would really kind of dig in and give me like the what fors, you know, and say, hey, you need to do this better, you need to do that better, this. And I mean, I got a lot of people saying, hey, this is really great, the story was good, it flowed, it just kept going, it was really, you know, great art. But I didn't get anyone who was like that, because like when I'm doing it, I can actually see it. I'm like, oh, I need to do that better, I need to do that better, you know. It's like but I also put restraints on myself, where I was like, if I'm a professional, I need to do a page a day. Like I can't spend more than 8 to 10 hours on a page, period. And I was like, I'm on a pencil, ink, and color in those hours. And it's like, that was what I put on myself. And I was like, and there were pages where I'm like, man, I really need to do better on this. But, you know, the time was up. I had to move on, you know, I have to do it and I have to get it out of here. So I definitely know what you're saying, like being in them workshops. But, you know, how about yourself? You know, like, I'll tell you what I do, like for writing. This is just what I've been doing lately. I've been getting up really early, and I'll spend like 30 minutes to an hour just like pouring stuff out. For some reason, that seems to work really well for me. It would either be then or late at night, but I haven't been staying up late at night. But it's like there's quiet, there's no one around. You know, I'm at the studio, I'm in here, I'm sitting on the couch first thing in the morning, and I just pour it. But that's about all I can get, like that 30 minutes to an hour. And then I'm just like, I got nothing else, you know. I don't know, what's it like for you? I mean, can you sit there like I can with drawing and just work all day and write? Because I that's something that I struggle with. I can't do it.
Yeah. So for the script that I write, usually there's a theme that I'll be interested in. And so prior to writing, I'll be like, okay, well, I want to read this book and this book and this book. These are all very good books that I have not read that deal with this theme. And so that's like my research period. And then I have my highlighters all over the place. And as I go through the book, if I see something like that's a really good idea and that would make for an interesting scene, I'll highlight it, I'll underline it. I might write little notes in the book, like whatever, because I have the general idea of the story in my head. It's just a blob initially. And then as I'm doing that, I'm like, oh, wow, that would be a great scene. So I'm writing, I'm thinking. Also, like before I go to bed at night, sometimes I'll tell my brain to like work on certain problems. And then when I wake up in the morning, like my brain has subconsciously been working on these things that I'm trying to work out. And then eventually I get to the point where it's like, it's time to write. So usually then I will find some sort of usually instrumental music that matches the mood or something that I want to write and the story. So I'll have like a set list of all these, like, you know, the music that I think goes. If it was my soundtrack, if my comic was turned into a movie, this is the soundtrack or the score that I would want with it. And then I sit down, and because a lot of it's already in my head and I've been thinking about it a long time, I don't like to do just a half an hour, an hour. It's like if I sit down, I want to go for 8 hours or 10 hours straight. And usually I'm not eating anything. I might have like multiple jugs of iced tea and water, and I just keep writing. And I'll do that until the script is finished. And then it's like some mind dump. And then I'm like exhausted, like mentally. And I actually feel tired as well. For some reason, when you're like pushing yourself mentally or something, when I'm done with a script for a week and a week afterwards, I feel like just physically exhausted as well. But then eventually you start trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the next script that's going to come down? So with Soul Finder, I've got 4, 5, and 6 basically percolating in my brain right now, and I'm about to start writing the 4th one pretty soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Verse Films Productions, they say Skits wants Skinny Puppy for the soundtrack. Yes, yes, and yes. That would be like awesome. Also, everyone go out there and subscribe to Verse Films Productions. They do a horror channel. That's actually my wife. She's doing some really cool stuff over there, and she's going to be doing more. She just took a break because she did like 30 straight days of Halloween, and it was like crazy. So go check that out. I appreciate that. So so you got 3 books out, and you're working on the 4th one.
The 3rd book should come out pretty soon. Matt Weldon is the artist. He's working on that. Dave Dorman, who's been doing our covers.
I know, that's awesome.
He's back I just talked to him this morning, so he should be doing 2 more covers for us. Alejandro Mirabal is another great artist. He did Long Harbor, which is at Iconic Comics.
Yeah.
He's doing the end sheets for us. I don't think he would mind me saying that. And he's done a bunch of bonus art as well that'll be in the book.
So how did you get Dave Dorman to do painted covers for you?
So I always say Timothy Lim was the guy. I owe so much to him. After Tim had already worked with Dave Dorman on a previous project, and Brett R. Smith. So Tim introduced me to Brett, Dave, Matt Weldon, Bill Williams, Mark Pellegrini, not Alejandro. That actually was our friend over at API, Joseph Healy, who just recently actually passed away, sadly. But he was the one who introduced me to Alejandro, and was like, I read Long Harbor. I read Black Tide. I don't know why you guys are not talking to each other, because thematically, I feel like they're perfect fit. You guys need to talk. So he introduced us, and then we got along right away. And but for the most part, Tim was the one who introduced me to all the different artists and colorists and other writers.
That's just awesome. I'd actually like to talk to some of those guys over there. Can we switch up a little bit and talk about Iconic Comics?
Anything you want to talk about, man.
Okay, I'm going to share the website right quick so people can see it. Yeah. All right. So people can see. So tell me about Iconic Comics. Like, where did it come from? How are you how'd you get involved with it? I mean, I don't know anything about it except for I just know that there's a few of you guys who are really good working together at Iconic Comics. That's about all I know.
Sure. So a few years ago, Timothy Lim and Tim was working with me on he was, again, instrumental with Soul Finder Demons Match. And we were talking about crowdfunding, and we were scared that at some point in time, we might actually get kicked off one of the crowdfunding platforms, because for various reasons, guys like us aren't, we'll just say there's populations out there that are not fond of us. So we were like, okay, well, what if we get kicked off of Indiegogo? Or what if we got kicked off of Kickstarter for some reason? We need to find a way to essentially make ourselves bulletproof from critics that don't like us, that want to essentially get us off Twitter and YouTube and all of these different platforms. So at some point in time, we should have a place where nobody could kick us off. And long story short, Tim had a friend who was very interested in handling the distribution problem. That was another thing with crowdfunding, where people were not being able to fulfill their books on time. They would raise lots of money, but then suddenly it came to distribution. You have hundreds or maybe thousands of books you need to fulfill, and it's too overwhelming for you to do. So Tim had a friend who was like a logistics master, and he was like, well, I've always wanted to get into this. And he essentially started what would become Iconic Comics. And then Tim was essentially the first artist, Tim and Mark Pellegrini, to be on there. And then the people that headed up, they just kind of look around, they find books, they get books, they follow campaigns, and they've just been trying to, I think Tim kind of likened it to Ocean's 11, but not like a criminal enterprise, where they're finding all of these artists and writers that are a motley crew of individuals. So Long Harbor is uber into horror. And then Tim's is this anime manga inspired intellectual property. Matt Weldon has Punchline, that's more traditional superhero art. My own deals with, again, exorcism. It dabbles in various genres, and so people all over the place. You might have almost rated R, but then you have like PG, PG-13, but then maybe even, I don't want to say G, but a family friendly, a wide spectrum of different sort of titles that people could choose from, but also properties that are being put out by artists where the artists are reliable, they're professional, they care about sound storytelling, and they care about beautiful art. And so over time, you've just had this gravitational pull of like-minded artists and creators that are just underneath one roof.
Well, I got to tell you, like the way I see, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, they're tech companies, they're social platforms, they're web stores, and for someone who's been on the internet since like 96, 97, that all of these things go away. Everything comes and goes. I mean, the only thing that's really kind of stuck around for a while is Amazon, Google, the big boys. They're still around. Facebook and Facebook hasn't even actually been here that long, but most of the social ones that came before it, like MySpace, Friendster, those types of things, all those have disappeared, and or they're just not being used anymore. I think they're still they're still out there, but they're just, no one's really on them. So for us, we were like, well, let's get a website going. It's like, we got something started, let's get a website going, and let's just start drawing all of our traffic to our website.
Right.
It's like as much as possible, because I just see it as like, these things are great right now, but you never know what's going to happen in a few years,
Yeah, when it comes to social media, it's just like having different tools in a toolbox. It's great to have a hammer. People will leverage different platforms according to their specific skill set. So some people are really great at streaming. They love it. They could do it every day. Me personally, I cannot do that. If I don't like something, I don't want to talk about it. I can't fake it. So sometimes I'm gone for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks at times. But people know that when I stream, it's something that I actually care about, that I want to talk about. Some people have they've made Twitter or Instagram very successful for them in terms of driving traffic to their crowdfunding campaign. Timothy Lim, I don't even think the Bunderdome has maybe it has like roughly 2,000 subscribers, but they're able to successfully crowdfund because they have their Twitter audience and Instagram and all of these other places. That is driving traffic. So everybody is going to use social media differently. And I always shy away when people try and give, like, this is the blueprint that you need to use. And it's like, no, that's what worked for you. And I could learn from you. But to tell me that I have to do it this way I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, you always got to find your own way, because also the books are different. That's something that we're kind of struggling with. It's like, okay, I know people are doing this, they're doing that. We're trying to find what we're strong at. It's like, maybe we need to go this way. And also our book is all ages. So we're trying to find ways to get it in front of more kids, because we feel like that would be our strongest audience. So it's just really, really tough to try and, navigate and get stuff in. And I put up there, Black Star, that's my wife, by the way. And
Cool.
She's like, you can't get fired if you own the company. Of course, that's always the best one. But yeah, it's just one of those things, it's like, you got to find your way, your path, and what's good for the gander is not always good for the goose, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it's, for me, YouTube, I like it. It's a great tool, but I've actually found that Twitter, when I was looking at the analytics on the back end of our first Indiegogo campaign, a huge number of people were coming from Twitter. So for whatever reason, my audience, Twitter's where I'm at. Google searches actually were pretty good, and my own YouTube channel. But like we were saying, everybody's going to be a little bit different. But the key is just to find people that have succeeded and saying, okay, how did that person succeed, and what can I actually apply to my own campaign?
Yeah. And when we got started, that's pretty much what we did. We were like, we weren't on Twitter. Well, my wife, she had a few accounts doing stuff, but she was on Instagram mainly. So it was like, we weren't on Twitter, we weren't on YouTube, we weren't in the community. So it was just like, we were like, okay, here's what people seem to be doing. They seem to be doing YouTube, Twitter, and we'll just see what happens, right? So we did a YouTube channel. We're on, where are we at, like 550 subscribers now. Twitter, we got like 2,000 subscribers. I think we did pretty good for our first time out. We're over 22,000, and we're about to shut down the campaign. So we'll just see what happens. We'll just keep rolling and try and keep going with it.
Yes, that's pretty good, especially for today. There was a period of time. That's the other thing with YouTube. They had their quote unquote adpocalypse, and there's been various situations where they've changed away from actually the indie creators that made YouTube popular to begin with to more of a focus on corporate media and promoting sort of Hollywood celebrities and those sorts of things. So in 2021, it's a lot harder to get traction with a following than it was in 2017, 2016, and earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we just started a year or so ago, so it's tough, but of course we're also, like you said earlier, you're a Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm actually a confirmed Catholic. But me and my wife are Christian. So a lot of the stuff that people do to garner viewership and stuff like that is, it's kind of against being a Christian. So we don't do those things. So it's like, if you don't do those things, then you can't get those views. So
I was just talking to my wife the other night about that. So I usually will just screen cap a famous person's sort of tweet, and then if I have a comment on it, that'll shield you a little bit from getting into fights. But for whatever reason, I responded to Piers Morgan, like the British media guy, the other day, and then he, of course, quote tweeted me, and we started getting into this like back and forth, and I got a bunch of subscribers or like followers from it. But I was telling my wife, it was like, I know for a fact that I can behave in a way where I can get very popular very quickly, getting into political debates with famous people for whatever reason. But I don't want to be the argumentative comic book guy who just gets in fights with people all the time to get that popularity, which will boost sales. So how do you actually boost sales in a way where you're being a much more positive force, putting positive energy out there into the world, as opposed to just arguing to become famous, internet famous? And it's a difficult balance to strike.
Well, I think the hard thing is, years ago, it was about the product, right? Mm-hmm. Today, it seems to be more about the person creating the product. And for us, the way we want to approach Skits is we want it to be about skits. Right. We want skits front and center. We want the books front and center. We want the art, the stories, the world building, all of that sort of stuff. That's what we want right there in front. So it's like that's what we want, and we don't want it to be about us. It's about the product. So we're doing it like old style, where it's like, you don't tell people your politics, you don't tell any of that stuff. It's just like, here's the product, here's what we're selling, and this is what we're excited about. So,
yeah, and I wish that the social media algorithms that gets into a whole other thing where they incentivize ridiculous, absurd behavior. The more absurd and actually mean that you are, oftentimes, they push that up to the top. So we're living in this culture, this society, this digital world where if you actually try and be a good person and they're like, that guy, he's kind of boring. He's pretty vanilla. So hopefully my goal, and it sounds like your goal as well, is like, if you just want to put out the best work possible, where the work itself is just so arresting. You were talking with Eric Canetti about whether there can be objective beauty or whatnot. And I agreed with you, where it's like, no, there is a certain level of objectivity in terms of beauty. True beauty will attract people to it. It will arrest you and just grab your attention, because whether people can articulate it or not, they know it. Their eyes are just drawn to it. And so I want to put out art with guys like Matt Weldon and Timothy Lim and Dave Dorman and Alejandro and all of these guys that on a subconscious level or whatever, they just are drawn to it and they want to buy it because there's something about it that strikes a chord inside them.
Yeah. J $, you're welcome. If you can find me, if you can find me, you can lay on the couch. All right. That's awesome. Oh man, that's great. So yeah, it sounds like, you know, just trying to make our best product, you know, just trying to do the best with making our stories or books. And I think that's great. You know, that's something that I just want to see more of, is just that and less fighting. You know?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, one of the things that I love is that when I look around the internet, whether it's YouTube comments or Twitter or Instagram, people are like, I can't wait to see what happens to Father Redder next, or I can't wait to see what adventures the Soul Finders go on. They're not really talking about me. I almost disappear into the background often, and it's like, that's what I want. I want people just to be talking about the book and the stories and the artwork.
Well, being that said, since I actually haven't gotten one of your books yet, sell me your book. Sell me your book. Make me want to go on Iconic Comics and buy it right now. So pitch it to me before we leave. We're about out of time. So
yeah, no problem. Like I said, Soul Finder is about combat veteran exorcists. They're essentially the special operations troops of spiritual warfare. And they take on a demon called Blackfire, who is immortal, and Blackfire's minion and occult followers. Essentially, they are tasked with doing this to the end of time. You need to have combat veteran experience to be recruited into this major order of exorcists, and they go back a long, long way, hundreds and hundreds of years. So there's Soul Finders from the Civil War and back in, you get World War II, World War I, Civil War, Korean War, all of that. And it's a story about this priest named Father Redder and his friends, his mentor, Father Crane, and a guy, Gregory Chua, a detective that helps them kind of solve some of these mysteries. And yeah, it's just a fun book. I put story first, and the artists that I've been working with, Matt Weldon, Timothy Lim, Dave Dorman, Alejandro, Brett R. Smith, all of these are top tier dudes. They're quality guys, and they're very professional. And I just hope people check it out.
Yeah, I really like Matt Weldon's art. I mean, he's fantastic. So everyone out there, go over to Iconic Comics, pick you up some Soul Finder. There's several of them right here, right on the main page. This is what you see when you go to their website. And also check out some of the other books over there too. I've gotten a couple. I think I got Black Hops, I think, over there. I need to, and then I also got the Long Harbor, which I absolutely loved. Long Harbor.
Yeah, that gave me the creeps. I had to take a shower after I read that. It was pretty scary.
Oh man, it's awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can find you besides Iconic Comics.
Sure. I'm on YouTube, Douglas Ernst, Instagram, Douglas Ernst, Twitter, Douglas Ernst, and next summer, 2022, I'll be my work will actually be in a crossover with Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini's Black Hops X Common America X Soul Finder on Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Man, we got a big crossover event. That should be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I heard the plot, and the plot is good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on, Douglas. This was great. I appreciate you coming on my small little channel and gracing me with all this information on writing, because that's something that I'm just getting into, and I like to hear what other people are doing.
No, thanks for inviting me, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for supporting Iconic Comics with Black Hops and Long Harbor. Appreciate it.
Well, I'll be getting a Soul Finder now too. So there you go.
Cool.
All right. Everyone, thanks a lot for stopping by. I appreciate it. You'll go out there and support us. You know, we're Skits Comic website, Skits Comic on YouTube, Skits Comic on Instagram, Skits Comic on Twitter. Also go check out Verse Films Productions. She's got some cool horror stuff coming up, so go check it out, and appreciate everyone for being here. Y'all have a good